Hi, welcome back to Grains in Small Places. My name is Kara, and if you're new here, my channel is pretty much dedicated to healthier foods made from scratch with fresh milled flour. But today I really wanted to share like the most amazing recipe I've ever seen, and it is one ingredient banana bread. So let's get started. It says cut and squeeze. Really smells like real banana. And you just pop this in the oven for 60 to 70 minutes. There you have it. April Fools, guys. I got you, didn't I? Now, let's actually make some banana bread with fresh milled flour from scratch. Let's get started. Okay, so to start out our fresh milled flour banana bread, we need about 300 grams of wheat berries. I'm choosing to use half soft white and half spelt. If you're using all soft white, you may need just a little bit more wheat berries. I find that the soft white, when I use it, I always have to use just a little bit more. So I'm gonna do about 150 grams of each. There's something like magically wonderful about quick breads. I think just because they are so quick to throw together, you don't really need a mixer. You don't really need anything fancy or special. Although they do take longer to bake, they are still fairly quick when you're considering yeast bread, which we, take time to rise. First rise, second rise, mixing, developing the gluten, all of that. This, we don't need to do any of that. So something nice if you need more hands-off type bread. I do have a few other quick bread style recipes on my blog. I've got like a blueberry bread, a beer bread, and then we'll have this banana bread, and I'll make sure to put a link to this recipe down in the description box below, and that's on my blog at grainsandsmallplaces.net, where you can find this recipe and a whole bunch of other recipes, all dedicated to fresh milled flour, because that's what I do. Okay, so the other half was spelt. I don't remember if I mentioned that. All right, so we have 300 grams. I'm gonna go ahead and take this over to my mill. We'll mill it, and then I'm just going to pretty much mix all the dry ingredients in with that flour. So I'll be right back after we mill it. I'm using a Nutrimill Harvest grain mill, and I will put a link in the description box below where you can grab $20 off your grain mill from Nutrimill or Bosch or any of the things on their website. So make sure to check out the description box below where you can grab that coupon code. Alrighty, and here is our beautifully fresh milled flour. And this one again is half soft white and half spelt. To this, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of salt. This is my half teaspoon measuring. And we're gonna do about a teaspoon of baking soda. And I'm gonna do about 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Now, I really like to use this non-aluminum added baking powder. I can put a link to this in the description box below. We're gonna just mix that together. Now, if you have any problems with your rise, just make sure that your leavening agents are not super old. They do go bad and they stop giving us the rise that we need. So your baking powder and baking soda, just make sure that usually about 6 months is about all you can get out of them once they've been opened. So just make sure that they are fresh before you want to use them to rise your bread. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and set this one to the side. I'm gonna go ahead and put my wet ingredients in here. So we're looking for about 1/2 cup of butter, and we're gonna melt this. So let me just chop this up because this one is very cold. I did not set this out or anything like that, but it will melt better if I have it in smaller pieces. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and microwave this. You can also use olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, whichever oil you prefer, or butter. You could even probably use lard, tallow, any of those. Also, if you have those on hand, I'm not sure if the flavor would come through like that or not. So let me know down in the comments below. If you ever have any issues with lard or tallow flavor coming through your baked goods, I'd love to, I guess, get some more information on that. Okay, so our butter is all nice and melted, but not scalding hot or anything like that, because I don't want it to like curdle my eggs. But I did forget one more dry ingredient here. I like to put about a teaspoon of cinnamon. So I like to also use this Ceylon cinnamon. It's the cinnamon that has all of the antioxidants and health properties. But really you can use any cinnamon. Generally I'll have to order that online because it's something that sometimes I can't find in the stores. So I could put a link in the description box below if you're interested in grabbing some of that and just trying it. It does taste a little bit different than just that traditional cinnamon we buy at the grocery store. I'm gonna go ahead and add about a teaspoon of vanilla to this. I love making my own homemade vanilla. I do have a video on that if you'd like to see how I make my vanilla. Okay, so to the melted butter, I'm going to add about 2/3 cup of yogurt. You can use plain yogurt, you can use Greek yogurt, you can use vanilla yogurt. I love using my own homemade yogurt. I do have a video on how to make your own homemade yogurt, including a bonus footage of how to turn that yogurt then into Greek yogurt and cream cheese. So if you're interested in that, I have that video as well. Gonna just mix it together. If you don't have yogurt, you could use sour cream, you could use buttermilk, you could use kefir, just whatever you have on hand. If you don't have any of that, you can always do milk with some vinegar, but we do need to make sure that we have an acid for our leavening agents to react. So if we use only milk or milk substitute, we need to make sure we add about a tablespoon of vinegar, white vinegar, into it. Okay, we're gonna use about 1 cup of sugar. This is just raw organic cane sugar. You could use honey if you prefer that as your sweetener. If you want it to be even sweeter, you could add a little bit more sugar. If you want it to be less sweet, you can add all the way down to probably about a 1/2 cup of sugar. Okay, and then I'm going to try to get two eggs in here. It fits. Let's see if I can stir it. Let me wash my hands. Okay, and I've just realized that I've forgotten my bananas. So that's no problem. We'll still be able to add that in there. Just gonna mix this around. What kind of banana bread would this be without bananas? It probably would still be pretty good. Okay, so we're gonna just put all this liquid into the flour. Okay, and I'm just going to give this a brief mix, but I still need to put my bananas in here. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of let this start absorbing some of the liquid, because generally when I'm making anything with fresh milled flour, I like to allow it to sit. That's called autolyzing, and I like to let that sit so that it allows the fresh milled flour to start absorbing the liquid. Also, it allows the bran to start to soften. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my bananas in here. I'm gonna go ahead and try to pick out some of the darker ones. So if you have really large bananas, you may only need 2. These are kind of on the small side, so I'm gonna go ahead and use 3, but really, either way, 2 to 3, somewhere around there, you'll be fine. Okay, 2 bananas. Trying to pick out some of the darker ones that I know nobody in my family will want to eat once they get past, you know, a certain darkness. So if your bananas are all the way black, you can still use them for this recipe or banana muffins. They actually taste great. You can mash these up however you wish. I've got this little meat masher thing, I guess we call it. And I'm just gonna use it to mash these up. And they smell nice and ripe and fresh. I do have to say, the smell of these fresh bananas does smell better than the like artificial banana smell that other mix had. So I feel good about adding these fresh bananas. Okay. I like to mush these till they're pretty much like a puree or a mash rather than pieces, but I will say that there are times that Matt will make banana muffins and he will just chop the bananas up. And so there's still pieces in the muffin, almost like, you know, your blueberry muffins have the pieces of blueberries in them. And that's really good too. So I guess whatever you prefer. You can also add mix-ins to this. You could add walnuts. You could add chocolate chips. You could add peanut butter chips. You could add anything. You could even like put some brown sugar and butter on the top. Really just whatever you prefer. Okay, so we're looking for this batter type consistency, and I also see that how I just found a little pocket of dry flour, so I definitely want to make sure we get that all mixed in off the bottom. I do have better stirring vessels, but this is just what I grabbed. You could also try making this recipe with that all-purpose flour blend that I mentioned in a few videos back. Well, I guess that was already a couple months ago. I will try to put a link to that in the description box below. I have a whole post on how to make like all-purpose flour out of fresh milled flour. It doesn't work for all recipes, and it doesn't work for like yeasted breads, but it definitely would work for something like this. And you could turn, you know, your family heirloom recipes, start making those with fresh milled flour. So we're gonna allow this to sit 10-15 minutes while our oven preheats. And I'm gonna make sure to preheat my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We're gonna cook this. My oven was already to temperature because I've been cooking all day. But we're gonna cook this about 60 to 70 minutes for my size pan. I'll put in the recipe, if you have a different size pan or a glass pan, how you need to alter that baking time. While it preheats, I'm going to get my bread pan and line it with some parchment paper. My husband taught me this trick. If I take this parchment paper and I crumple it, open it up and crumple it again, it fits in here nicely. So thank you, Matt, for that. Usually I'm wrestling around with the parchment paper for a while. I've seen many hacks and tricks and stuff like that, but this one seems to just kind of work the best. When I don't do the double crumple, it just kind of falls out on me. Okay, and because I've been baking all day, my spatulas are all dirty, so we'll make do with this. My pans are a 4x8 bread pan. So sometimes these are on the smaller side. If you have the larger 9x5 bread pans, you can still use the same exact recipe, but your baking may be slightly less than mine. So just keep an eye on it. Whenever you stick your toothpick in there and it comes out without wet batter on it, then you're good to go and it's done baking. Okay, so now that we've let it sit for a little while, we can go ahead and bake it. I'm baking this for somewhere between an hour to 70 minutes, maybe even 75 minutes. Not sure how long exactly it'll take. Everyone's oven is a little bit different, so just keep an eye on it. Like I was saying, test it with the toothpick before you pull it out. But we're gonna go ahead, into the oven it goes. Okay, it's out of the oven. Let's check it. Perfect. Okay, it was about 60 minutes for my pan. I'll put notes in the printable recipe if you have different size pans or glass pans rather than the metal pan. So you can just take a look at that and it'll give you different baking instructions. I'm gonna let this cool for about 10 minutes in the pan. Ow, that was hot. And then we'll take it out of the pan and let it cool the rest of the way. And then once it's cooled, we'll slice into it and I'll let you take a look. It smells delicious. Okay, so I think you can probably tell which one of these is the fresh milled flour and the non-fresh milled flour. I went ahead and baked it just for fun, but we just did a blind taste testing and we all flip-flopped them, and all four of us from our family chose this one. This one has such an artificial taste and it's almost gluey, even though it kind of looks pretty. Like, I was a little afraid that we might like it better, but hands down, fresh milled flour for the win. Okay, so if you're wanting to do your banana bread with sourdough, I do have a recipe for that on my blog. Also, I will make sure to put a link to in the description box below, and I'll also show you what my sourdough banana bread looks like. So I hope you got a little kick out of my little April Fool's joke. And thanks for hanging out with me while we made the real banana bread with fresh milled flour. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And check out my blog at grainsandsmallplaces.net, where you can find this recipe and a whole bunch of other recipes all dedicated to fresh milled flour. So thank you for stopping by Grains and Small Places. Goodbye. It smells so fake.
It's good though.
It's kind of green. I did that wrong. Do it again.